Taiwan, a small island, but one that sits at the center of one of the biggest geopolitical rivalries. China has once again raised tension after carrying out a missile launch over Pacific Ocean. Beijing says it was simply a routine military exercise though, but Taiwan is not convinced here. Taiwanese officials believe that this is another attempt by China to increase military pressure and remind the entire world that it has the power to act whenever it wants. Now, to understand why this matters, we first need to understand the relationship between China and Taiwan. Ladies and gentlemen, China considers Taiwan to be part of its own territory. Beijing has repeatedly said that reunification it is going to happen. If necessary, force could be used here. However, if we flip the script, Taiwan sees itself as a self-governed democracy with its own government, its own military, and its own economy. For decades, this disagreement it has remained unsolvable. But over the last few years, military activity around Taiwan has increased dramatically. Chinese fighter jets regularly enter Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Chinese naval ships patrol nearby waters. Military drills have become larger and more frequent. Now, this latest missile launch, it has once again raised alarm bells in Taipei. Well, here Taiwan says China is trying to change the regional status quo through military pressure rather than diplomacy. Officials fear that repeated military exercises are becoming the new normal, making the entire region even more unstable. What is making Taiwan even more nervous is the growing uncertainty over international support. For years, Taiwan has depended heavily on the United States for military and diplomatic backing. America has never officially recognized Taiwan as an independent country, though, but it has supplied weapons and maintained close security ties with the island. However, today, the global situation it is becoming more and more complicated. Why? Because the US is deeply involved in multiple international crises, from the war in West Asia to continuing support for Ukraine and growing security challenges elsewhere. Washington's attention it is kind of divided across several fronts, and that is why every Chinese military move around Taiwan it is now being viewed much more than just as a routine diplomatic or military warning. Well, a single missile test, it may not start a war, definitely, but repeated military pressure, it increases the chances of a misunderstanding, an accident, or maybe a confrontation that nobody wants. But for India, the story also matters. Taiwan is one of the world's biggest producers of advanced computer chips. Any conflict in the Taiwan Strait, it could disrupt global supply chain, affect electronics, smartphone, automobiles, and even India's growing tech sector. Sometimes a missile launch thousands of kilometers away, it can end up affecting businesses and consumers around the globe. And yes, while tension continued to rise in the Pacific, another tragedy has unfolded much closer to the West Asia, where the US Navy has ended a massive search operation after losing one of its senior officials.